my privilege to introduce Wally Builders. Wally and his team will take us through the next presentation. I think in terms of Wally's history in IT and telecommunications, very similar to Brian's, you know. So Wally, I'm not going to say a lot more in terms of introducing you. Wally is head of communications at NEC Exxon. Wally, there we go. And
yeah. Thank you very much. Thanks, Johan. Thank you to all of you for gracing us with your presence today. So my objective, first and foremost, is to give you some view of the NEC Exxon ambition, and also why we actually are where we are today and where it all started. So, you know, without, you know, getting in too much detail, 5G and OpenRAN and the OpenRAN models are critical to our future relevance in the marketplace. And if you look at some of the studies that's been done, PwC has predicted that let me just try and get this, okay. PwC has predicted that by 2025, more than 500 million customers will be using mobile service in some shape or format. But what's further to that is that the 5G models in the future will contribute by 2025 up to $350 million to the global GDP. And they further predict that, you know, this potentially could grow between 2025 and 2030 to $1.3 trillion. So that is massive growth that is anticipated within the use cases that is specifically tied to 5G in the future. So it is therefore extremely important for us as an integrator how we're going to play within that space. So, you know, in our opinion, a lot of the growth that we currently anticipate in the future will come out of Africa. And we have been quite forward-looking in the way that we have positioned ourselves in Africa. One of the 5 big bets that we have placed on NEC Exxon is the growth in 5G and OpenRAN, and also how we're going to then position ourselves within that space going forward. Now, within my organization, I have 2 pillars that are really joined by a networking pillar as well as a wireless pillar. But the 2 of them needed to collaborate in order to reshape us for the future. And this is when we have started to toy with the idea of how do we position ourselves within the 5G OpenRAN space. So this is a discussion that we've engaged with one another about 2 years ago. I think if we then pulled the trigger, it would have probably been the wrong thing to do. Where we find ourselves today, 2 years down the drag, a lot of advances within in the technology field, a lot of advances in terms of the openness of the ecosystem and how we have at least engaged with the ecosystem partners as we have journeyed towards where we are today. You know, as Johan said, I've been in the industry for a while, and I must say that, you know, I have, in all of my experiences that I've had in the telco industry and the service provider industry, I am yet to find 2 more talented people, which I inherited, which is Anthony Lang and Willem Wenzel. So the 2 of them are a critical part in our journey to execute and to deliver and to demonstrate to all of you why we should be the SI of choice. So I want to hand you over to Anthony and to Willem. Thanks.
Thank you, Wally. Oh, that's not the right slide.
How does it work?
So let me start here. So where do I start? So what I wanted to say, in Africa we have a kind of a unique situation, and I'm glad to see that Brian mentioned it earlier, which is that in terms of fixed internet connectivity, we're still far behind the rest of the world. But everybody needs connectivity and everybody wants connectivity. And some of my favorite customers are here, and they're at a rapid rate deploying fiber, some of them at an astonishing rate, but there's still a massive population that needs to be served. And the best way to do that, certainly quickly and cost effectively, is using mobile technologies. And that's why OpenRAN and 5G are so exciting to me, specifically. So 5G, because for the first time ever, a mobile technology can be a true fixed line replacement. And it's not exactly as good, but it's about as close as mobile has ever become. In fact, at home, I use 5G as a backup. And when I use it as a backup, it feels exactly the same as my fiber service. So that's number one. Number two, in Africa, we have a slightly different requirement in terms of how we do mobile internet. If you look at the rest of the developed world, most of them already have internet at the office that's reliable, internet at home that's reliable. They use it as a supplementary service. In our case, a lot of the people that are using mobile services are using it as a primary service. So that drives two things. Firstly, the kind of services that they expect are different. The price point that they want to pay could be different. And that's why OpenRAN, in my opinion, provides such an exciting opportunity. So what is OpenRAN? It's very simple in concept. Traditionally, mobile networks were built by 1, 2, 3, 4 of the biggest companies, the SIs, or let's call them the mobile network builders of the world. Let's not call them SIs because that's not true. The giants. And what it meant is that you typically buy the entire solution from them, or 1 or 2 or 3 at most of these companies, and to integrate them was a bit complicated.
And
because
also,
of that,
Anthony, that you as a telco provider are limited by the vision of 4 companies.
exactly, yeah. And that's where I was going to get on to next, which is OpenRAN gives you the opportunity to build the same kind of network in terms of functionality, but using components from multiple different vendors. And what that means is you now have the flexibility to choose the best of breed. And best of breed isn't always who's the best, but it's the best depending on what you want to do. So let's say you're looking for high performance, high throughput because it's a highly dense area like Sandton City. You would have a different requirement than if you want to provide low cost, rapid deployed access to a rural area. And the traditional model, yes, they have options, but they're much more limited. With OpenRAN, each component in the stack and across the network can be replaced easily, which means that for the first time you have the opportunity for a small startup to really innovate in a crucial area of the network and to be able to be adopted and brought into the solution. Maybe they offer new functionality. Something Brian talked about earlier is that killer use case. For us, even just mobile broadband is a killer use case because we have so many people that are unconnected. But what if there is a killer use case that we don't know about yet, that comes about? It could very well be that it's developed by a couple of students. Previously, for those students to get their solution into this monolithic system is near to impossible. Whereas with OpenRAN, they could theoretically come to a company like NEC, who has the capability to stick this together, and have us test just that new component in the end-to-end solution. And I think that's one of the reasons that it's so exciting to me. So the million-dollar question, I need to find my right slide, forgive me. So I did an interview a couple of months ago, and I obviously did a very good job of convincing the person I was speaking to that this is the next best thing. So their question was, well, if it's so good, why isn't everybody doing it already? And one of the biggest challenges is that you do now have, and this is an example I'm going to talk about a bit in a second, is for each of the different critical components in a mobile network to have potentially a different vendor, or even multiple vendors at different parts of that component. And the million-dollar question is, who's going to stick all the stuff together? Who's going to make it work together? Because individually, each of these components could be a leader in their market, a leader in their field, but they might not have expertise in the other areas, and somebody has to stick it together. Similarly, the mobile operators are looking for a single throat to choke, is the expression we always use. And some of my customers here will know what I'm talking about. But they want somebody to go to that's not going to point fingers, somebody who's going to take ownership of it. And that is where we as NEC Exxon fit in. And I'm very proud to say, and I've been told not to steal too much thunder, but what you see on the screen here, together with these vendors and our partners and the sponsors of the event today, we've managed to build this into a working end-to-end OpenRAN lab that we launched internally last week at our head office in Midrand. We actually made this work. And I can say that with a big sigh of relief because it literally has taken us 2 years. And the reason it's taken 2 years is because it is complicated. A lot of the stuff is cutting edge. What Wally said is very true. 2 years ago, the stuff that we were doing didn't even, well, the stuff we're doing now didn't potentially even exist 2 years ago. But in the process, we've learned a lot. And what we did is we made sure we didn't bring in an international team, have them set it up for us, and then leave. We made sure that our local teams were the guys that got the enablement, got the knowledge. They were the ones who got it up and running. And we've gained an incredible amount of experience in the last 18, 24 months. And again, thanks very much to our sponsors and our partners that have been crucial in that journey, supporting us along the way to get to the point where we have this experience center that we're both very proud of, but we're not really allowed to talk about yet. And the last thing that I want to mention just before I hand over to the true expert in the mobile space, Willem, is that one of the reasons, you know, we always say, everybody likes to say they're an SI, and I think I've said it multiple times over the last 15, 20 years of my career. But I think I learned in the last 18 to 24 months what a real SI has to do. And within our organization, we have multiple different business clusters, and we really needed all of them to come together to be able to make this solution work. And I think it was a learning experience for us. It's the closest I've ever worked with Willem. It's the closest I've ever worked with our storage team. And we all had to club together. We needed new expertise within each business unit. We needed to figure out how the business units needed to work together. And it was challenging at times, but also very exciting, because I think once we did that first successful test, everybody felt like they'd contributed to it. And for the first time, I can honestly put my hand on my heart and say, that's what a true systems integrator does. And yeah, we have it working. So we have it working with the vendors that I mentioned. And I'm not allowed to say more about our lab. You'll see a little bit more about it later. So on that note, I'll hand over to Willem, who's obviously got a lot more experience in the mobile space, to talk a little bit more about the benefits and challenges of OpenRAN specifically.
Thanks, Anthony. Yes, I think it was a journey. And we as an organization work in clusters and in verticals. And 5G gave us the opportunity to cross-collaborate all the divisions within our company, which was an amazing journey in itself. We knew each other, but now we know each other.
For better or worse.
Yeah. So in the telco space, we know there's a lot of challenges currently threatening the market, competition, new licenses that's issued. So the financial pressure, the ARPA rates are low due to competition. The business cases are outdated in the current networks. And to adopt new technology with the current type of infrastructure build is costly. You have to buy, and I normally, and the people that know me, understand what I call, if I say you have to buy a couple of fridges to get new functionality, because it's proprietary to certain vendors. But OpenRAN gives us the ability to deploy cost-effective networks that speaks to segments of the market in certain areas, and it allows you to get away with a fridge-type business. And in this space, when you disaggregate the network, you can deploy innovative business cases in certain areas. And it also allows you to be agile and speak to the market when the market demands new services. So in the disaggregated network, you've got an open architecture that speaks to certain areas of the network. It's an open hardware and software platform who everybody can deploy. It gives you the ability to have applications that competes across the market opposed to only certain verticals. And this platform gives you the ability to quickly speak to the market and address certain opportunities. And as Anthony alluded to later this afternoon, Wally will give us a little bit of a peek in a video on what our experience looks like. Thank you.
Thanks, Willem. Thanks, Anthony. Yeah, you know, maybe just a small preview is that, you know, as they said, the mobile world is really driving unprecedented change in the marketplace, and that will continue to change, and technology will be at the forefront of that change. And as I have alluded to, is although they have collaborated across one another and across various clusters within the NEC stable, it also forced us to find smart models and to smartly collaborate across the ecosystem. So to that effect, we have had a number of detailed discussions with a number of ecosystem partners. The one ecosystem partner that has demonstrated their capability in the rollouts that they have done, not only in Japan, but also in Germany, in the UAE, and various other territories across the globe, is Rakuten. Rakuten has rolled out more than 270,000 sites, and you'll hear more about that, and have more than 6 million customers. And they have really challenged the traditional model and made it work. So, you know, it is really, for me, a fantastic honor to know that Rakuten has also announced that they have chosen NEC Exxon as the SI of choice into Africa. So